good morning to yourself and to all the commissioners and other members of civil society and other formations that are listening to us this morning. Let me start off by acknowledging my fellow ministers. I have seen Minister Mantashe, Minister Patel, Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, Ministers William Kize, Minister Bladen Zimande, and Minister Fadile Mbalula, all of whom have joined us this morning. And I think that it's wonderful to have so many of our fellow colleagues online with us in this forum. Chairperson, I wanted just to start by mentioning the President's letter, which he issued on Monday. And I think that those of you who would have read it would have seen that President Ramaphosa took the opportunity this week to speak about the importance of climate change and the struggle against climate change in his weekly letter. And in that letter, he made three very important points. Firstly, he said that even as we battle the COVID-19 pandemic, the fight against climate change is a national priority in our country. The second point he made is that South Africa must contribute to the reduction of global emissions. And the third point he made was he said that it is the role of the Climate Change Commission to advise government on an ambitious transition to a low carbon economy. Now, colleagues, I thought it was important to highlight this letter because it emphasizes, firstly, the enormity of the task that confronts the Commission, but it also speaks to the seriousness with which government at the very top takes the role of this Commission. My colleagues have spoken, and you yourself, Chairperson, have spoken in a great deal of detail this morning about the threats and the opportunities that confront us. And I think that it would be tedious if I were to repeat them. But clearly emerging from this discussion are two very important points. The first is obviously that we do not have time to waste in setting about the Commission's work. And I think the specter of an increase in global climate above 2 degrees for Southern Africa is too ghastly to contemplate, because we all understand that this will mean that significant areas of our country and significant proportions of our agricultural production will become uninhabitable. But I think that the other important point that has been made this morning is that there is a window of opportunity in our country and in the broader global context. And that window of opportunity will not last forever. Now, what is that window of opportunity? I think what we are all coming increasingly to understand is that there are two areas in the global context where there is possibility for economic growth, and there is also possibility for substantial job creation. The first is obviously in the ICT sector. The second is in the introduction of new and significant green technology. And I think that Minister Patel gave adequate flesh to that opportunity. Now, why am I saying that there is a window of opportunity that will not last forever? And I think that the reason is that what we all understand is that as the world transitions, so there is increasingly in the international space significant financial resources available for this transition. India is currently building 450 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2030. This is a fellow developing country, a fellow member of the BRICS and the BASICS formation at international level. And they are certainly already in this very significant race for accessing these international resources. Now, at a global level, Chair, we all know that last week there was this very exciting summit that was convened by President Joe Biden, and I had the privilege of accompanying President Ramaphosa and Minister Naledi Pandor to that summit. And what we saw there was considerable global ambition for the transition and considerable global positioning by countries to place themselves in a favorable condition to access the international resources that are becoming available. The position of South Africa as part of the African group of negotiators and part of the developing world is that as we confront the issue of the climate transition, we must ensure that developed countries emphasize all three aspects of the Paris Agreement: ambition on mitigation, ambition on adaptation, ambition on the means of implementation. As a country, in all of the fora where we are represented, we repeatedly stress the fact that the ability of developing countries such as ours to be ambitious with regard to mitigation and adaptation provisions is dependent on access to financing and access to technological support. So we must, of course, be positioning ourselves to compete for that support, but we must also be constantly advocating in the public domain that our countries need that support. Otherwise, I think Minister Mantashe has adequately described to us some of the chaotic situations that might occur. Chairperson, in conclusion, allow me, I think Mr. Alva has adequately explained to us the process that will be happening with regard to the NDCs. And I think that we really do urge the Commission and the Commissioners individually to take this process very seriously and to give us honest feedback. I think that there is also obviously enormous interest within the Commission as to what's happening with the climate bill. And I can share with you today that the climate bill has left NEDLAC. It has been certified by the State Law Advisor, and it will now be on its way to Cabinet. And of course, once it's been through Cabinet, it has to be gazetted for public comment for 30 days. And from there, it will go to the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. In conclusion, I think it's very important to pay tribute, as you did in your introduction, to Professor Scholes, whose passing yesterday has been a tremendous loss to the climate and biodiversity world. And I would make this appeal through you, Chairperson, that this commission should formally honor him and formally communicate our sadness at his loss and his passing with his family. As you said in your introduction, there was a time in the 1990s and the early 2000s when there were only a few voices that brought this very important issue to our attention. One of those very important and significant South African scientists was Professor Scholes. And it would only be appropriate that this commission formally communicate with his family. Thank you very much.